station working for you. This is WRTV News at 11, streaming now.
Good evening to you here at 11 o'clock. An Indianapolis mother disappeared almost 5 months ago and hasn't been seen or heard from since. The case, which IMPD called unusual and suspicious, is now being investigated as a homicide.
WRTV reporter Cameron Riddle has been following this story since June and tonight caught up with the family of Chanel Gilbert. They're hoping the community can help provide some closure.
Since June 9th, when Chanel first went missing, there has not been any luck on uncovering anything.
Chanel Gilbert was last seen by her ex-boyfriend on the morning of June 9th. The 42-year-old mother and grandmother has not been seen or heard from since.
The ex-boyfriend is no longer a person of interest or a suspect or whatever may we call him. So there is no leads. There is nothing that we can go off of at this time. It's just kind of like she vanished into thin air.
Back in June, Daniette Smith led a search party scouring the Wayne Township area of Rockville and Girl School roads for clues, including the nearby housing addition where Gilbert was last seen.
Her car was last over there, as well as her cell phone being pinged before it just vanished as well and no longer had a signal.
It makes me angry, and it's also painful to know that she's out there somewhere and we have no idea where she is.
IMPD tells me they are still actively looking into this case, but there are no new leads and no suspect information to share. Still, Chanel's aunt says it is difficult to understand how no one has no information about what happened to Chanel Gilbert.
There is no way a person can just disappear without someone knowing something or seeing something. And we're just pleading to the community to call and report what you know or report what you've seen. And you can do that without giving up your identity because as a family, we need to know where she is. We need that closure.
Cameron Riddle, WRTV.
Hopefully they can get some answers soon. IMPD tells WRTV investigators that they assume Gilbert is not alive because she has not made any contact with her family. They are asking the community to share new information or tips by reaching out at 262-TIPS or 317-327-3475.
Now to the forecast. We'll get a break from the rain tomorrow. WRTV meteorologist Kyle Mounts joining us now with your forecast.
Yeah, and Mark, you know, we could use a little break from the rain because some areas picked up between 2 and 5 inches of wet weather last night, and that's the same areas that's dealing with a little bit of rain here as we go through tonight, but it is much lighter out there north of I-70. You can see around Lafayette, we've got some rain, and also into Marion, Indiana, Anderson, some very light rain. Now, southern communities, we've got a warm front that's hanging out there, and that's also helping to produce a little bit of fog. Visibility is under a half a mile in Bloomington right now and only about 3 miles in Nashville and Columbus. Let's take you to Bloomington right now. Very difficult to make out there on the IU campus with that low visibility. Our temperatures, they are holding their own, not really expected to move too far as we go through the rest of the night. 59 in Indy, 53 in Kokomo. Tomorrow morning, we will start off around 60 with partly cloudy skies. I'll detail the return of rain in a few minutes.
We'll see you soon, Kyle. Thank you. Now to the latest on the pandemic. Additional steps are being taken to protect Hoosiers at long-term care facilities. At today's weekly briefing, the State Department of Health announced a 5-step plan to help reduce COVID surges in those facilities. The plan includes hiring staff from the healthcare reserve workforce, providing more personal protective equipment, requiring infection control training, allowing immediate discharge from a hospital to a patient's home, and calling on the National Guard.
The Guard will be trained to assist with screening of employees and simple infection control practices. The work will begin on November 1st and will start in long-term care facilities that are experiencing positive cases, and then will expand to all 535 facilities.
The State Department of Health says 2,205 people who have died from COVID since the start of the pandemic were residents in long-term care facilities. That's 58% of the state's total COVID deaths.
Also at today's briefing, Governor Eric Holcomb faced questions about why he is keeping the state in stage 5 as positive cases, hospitalizations, and deaths continue to grow. WRTV's Cornelius Hawker shares the governor's response and perspective on the decision.
At the end of March, Governor Holcomb ordered Hoosiers to stay home because of the coronavirus. When the stay-at-home order ended at the beginning of May, more than 21,000 people in our state tested positive for coronavirus, according to the Indiana State Department of Health. More than 1,200 had died. As of today, more than 1,052,000 Hoosiers have tested positive, with the number of deaths sitting just below 3,800. From the number of positive tests to hospitalizations, medical experts agree Indiana is heading in the wrong direction. That's why some people are questioning Governor Eric Holcomb on if he'll decide to step back from stage 5 of reopening in our state. It was one of the first questions he was asked about in his weekly coronavirus update.
Stage 5 has got nothing to do with any campaign. This has got to do with safely getting back to school, getting our economy fully open to the extent that it can be safely, and that's happening all over the state of Indiana.
For more than 5 minutes, Holcomb defended his decision to keep the state in stage 5.
We know how to fight back. Back to what Dr. Weaver said, we know a lot more about this. We know how to fight back. We know we can control what we can control. And that has to do with distancing, that has to do with masking up, that has to do with good hygiene, all those best practices. So
looking at it from a different perspective, I think we've seen how this virus has evolved over the last 9 months. We don't know how much it is going to evolve in the next 9 months.
That's Dr. Rajat Kapoor with IU Health, who says he and his colleagues have learned a lot about the coronavirus in the same time frame that Hoosiers went from staying home to stage 5.
Several trials that have come out, and even our own experience at IU Health and surrounding hospitals, we've identified several modalities that we can use to help these patients,
which has put them in a better position to treat those who are hospitalized. But to the question about whether or not we should roll back our reopening, Dr. Kapoor says that's up to our government leaders, and all we can do is follow health guidelines that have been determined to work.
We can follow simple precautions, and if we all follow simple precautions, it does not matter.
Working for you, Cornelius Hawker, WRTV.
Well, Governor Holcomb was also asked if he plans to attend Vice President Pence's rally in Fort Wayne tomorrow, and if it's wise to hold such an event with hundreds of people.
If it's safely orchestrated, and that's what we'll review, when I finalize whether or not, I likely will, by the way, I'm not trying to avoid your question, I likely will, we need to finalize it on my schedule, but we'll obviously, if we do, follow all the Secret Service protocol. I'll be tested before I go. I'll share those results with you. And I'll be masked up. And, you know, if I can't be distanced, I'll be masked up.
After tomorrow's visit to Fort Wayne, Vice President Pence plans to stop in Indianapolis on Friday to vote early. That trip is rescheduled from earlier this month.
Some voters in Marion County say they have been waiting more than a month to receive their absentee ballots so they can vote by mail. They reached out to WRTV Investigates for answers. Linda Stegner in Speedway requested her ballot the last week of September. Her husband requested his at the same time. He already received his ballot and voted by mail. She's getting worried because absentee ballots have to be in by noon on Election Day to count. WRTV Investigates checked with the Marion County Clerk's office, who told us Linda's ballot was mailed on October 1st. We reached out to the U.S. Postal Service, who told us the Greater Indiana District is not aware of any widespread delays and is processing all ballots for delivery.
Well, I don't have a lot of faith in it. I mean, it doesn't. I mailed my sister a birthday card last Wednesday, and she got it on Friday. Now, she can get it in 2 days. Why can't I get this in 19, 20 days?
In Marion County, of the 91,000 ballots mailed out, nearly 40,000 have not been returned. That could mean the voter never received it. It's still in the mail. The voter received it and did not mail it back, or the county has the ballot and it just has not been scanned into the system yet. So what can you do if you have not received yours? You can vote early in person or on Election Day. Poll workers should give you an affidavit to sign. You can also send an ABS 5 form to the election board to have your ballot reissued. And the deadline to apply for an absentee ballot is tomorrow, October 22nd. Also, when you are finished, you do not have to mail back your absentee ballot. You can drop it off in person at the County Election Board office or the Election Board Service Center. You can also drop it off at select early voting locations that open on Saturday, including Cranor Park, MSD Lawrence Administration Building, Perry and Warren Township Government Centers, and St. Luke's United Methodist Church.
Tonight, U.S. intelligence officials made an announcement about election interference. They say Russia and Iran have obtained some U.S. voter registration data.
This data can be used by foreign actors to attempt to communicate false information to registered voters that they hope will cause confusion, sow chaos, and undermine your confidence in American democracy. To that end, we have already seen Iran sending spoofed emails designed to intimidate voters, incite social unrest, and damage President Trump.
Officials say the U.S. will impose costs and consequences on those behind foreign interference in elections, and they encourage you to remain confident that your vote will count.
Coming up, how the Pope's comments on same-sex unions could impact lives in other ways, and a little later.
It is difficult to sometimes articulate how each death feels like a little part of your spirit is being taken away.
More transgender and gender non-conforming people have been killed this year than in any previous year. Community advocates explain why those deaths hit close to home, no matter where they happen.
From the station working for you, this is WRTV News at 11, streaming now.
You may not be ready for winter weather, but the Department of Public Works is. Today, the city unveiled 7 new snow trucks. Officials say they are much needed. Some of the old trucks have been around since 1989. 18,000 tons of salt are on hand, and an additional $2 million in funding is available if needed. And there will be a second shift of drivers this winter.
Kyle Mounts joins us now. And Kyle, we had some rain that we definitely needed and a lot of gloomy skies, but we're getting a warm up.
Yeah, we've got some spring-like temperatures here as we're getting ready to round out the work and school week for many kids. We do have more rain in the forecast, and we're dealing with a little bit of that in northern communities tonight. But as we look, just kind of take a snapshot over the next 7 days, and we're looking at the potential of another 1.5 to 2 inches of rain coming our way. Now, we can handle that over a 7-day period. What we had some trouble handling last night was that rain amount coming in about 12 hours or so. Things not nearly as heavy tonight, but you've got some light to moderate rain around Monticello and Logansport, just some light showers in the Lafayette area. Big spread in temperatures across the state of Indiana. 52 in Gary, it's 59 in Indy, and 67 in Louisville, where they hit 80 degrees earlier today. And that warmth is going to be overspreading the Hoosier State here as we go even overnight and into tomorrow, because we're going to hold our temperatures right around 60 as you head out the door in the morning. So you're not going to have to layer up all that much. Maybe just the light jacket do you just fine there. Won't need it for the afternoon. I think we'll also see the return of some sunshine with those warmer temperatures. It's been kind of gloomy, as Amanda said, the last couple of days. Tomorrow should be a bit brighter for us as you warm to 78 in Kokomo and Marion. Anderson at 79, 81 in Lafayette. And we'll find everyone right around that 80-degree mark. 80 in Indianapolis, 82 for your afternoon high in Shelbyville, and temperatures in the lower 80s around Rockville and Brazil. The record high for tomorrow is 85 degrees, so we're not going to be too far from that. 82 in Bloomington and 81 in Bedford. Enjoy it, because look at what is going to happen. This temperature roller coaster, we're getting near the peak of it, and we are going to come crashing down here pretty full force as we go into the upcoming weekend. High temperatures by Saturday only in the 50s. There's that average at 63 degrees. As far as the rain chances coming back, that's going to be the transition with those temperatures cooling down. Here's a look at TrueCast as we get into the day on Friday. We got cloud cover, then we'll start to see a few of those showers, isolated thunderstorms developing, but this should be a pretty quick moving line. We're not expecting severe weather and shouldn't really have much in the way of heavy rainfall. Maybe a few of those showers that will linger for some high school football games, but at this point, it looks like we'll be drying out as we get into the evening hours. 74 on Friday. There's the big temperature change. 55 on Saturday. Dry to start off the weekend. As we get into Sunday, rain chances will return as we head into the afternoon with a high of 64. Widespread rain. I think most of our rain will come Monday of next week. And that's another cold front because as we get into about Tuesday and Wednesday, high temperatures only in the 50s, and we will start off in the middle 30s by Wednesday. Amanda?
Thanks, Kyle. Hopeful. That's how some people say they feel now that Pope Francis has become the first pontiff to endorse same-sex civil unions. In a documentary called Francesco, which premiered at the Rome Film Festival, the Pope says, quote, homosexual people have the right to be in a family. They are children of God. Gay rights advocates say this could not only impact same-sex marriages among Catholics, but other aspects of their lives as well.
It's very reassuring and also encouraging to my clients and to our law firm as well that the position that we've taken from the beginning has been validated by the leader of the Catholic Church.
Attorney Kathleen Delaney represents a guidance counselor at Roncalli High School and a teacher at Cathedral High School. Both lost their jobs because of their marriages. The Archbishop of Indianapolis justified the decision, saying the schools must separate from the employees or they would no longer be recognized as Catholic.
We hope that this will cause the Archbishop to reconsider his very concerted campaign going after members of the gay Catholic community. And we hope that he'll seek to make amends with our clients who were wrongfully terminated because of who they are and to whom they're married.
A spokesperson says the Archdiocese of Indianapolis cannot comment until the Vatican releases a statement.
There have been no updates on the death of a woman on the east side of Indianapolis since we told you about the case on Friday. Friends say someone shot and killed Sarah Blackwood while she walked along East Washington Street after work. And while police have not publicly released a possible motive for the shooting, Blackwood's death comes amid growing reports of transgender and gender nonconforming people being killed. Scripps reporter Dan Grossman talked with a member of the transgender community about how one death can have wide-reaching effects.
One of the saddest things that we do, but it's necessary, is we do report on the deaths and the numbers of trans and gender nonconforming folks who are killed.
Tori Cooper wants to make one thing explicitly clear.
A lifestyle describes the way in which you live and not the person that you are.
It is a distinction that to some might not seem important, but to her and others who work at the Human Rights Campaign, it can be a matter of life or death.
There's a loud minority of folks who feel that it's their place to punish people who have different beliefs than they do.
This year, there have been at least 33 transgender or gender nonconforming people who have been murdered. It is a number that has steadily climbed since the HRC started tracking the deaths back in 2013.
It is difficult to sometimes articulate how each death feels like a little part of your spirit is being taken away.
Tori says with more exposure comes more risk. She also says each year the reporting gets more accurate, which could be why the trend has gone the way it has.
There's so many things that you find in common, so many commonalities against these people who have been murdered, that it feels each time a little closer to home.
For Tori, a trans woman herself, that feeling was never more pronounced than after 33-year-old Felicia Harris, another trans woman, was killed earlier in October by a man she was in a romantic relationship with. Both live in Georgia, and both can identify with the fact that most of these deaths have come at the hands of those closest to the victim.
When someone says something under their breath, you have to think to yourself, is this person going to kill me? And that may sound, for folks outside of the community, it may sound hyperbolic. But the truth is it isn't.
Tori says the way forward is in education, empathy, and working through any discomfort about a life, not a lifestyle, that may be different than our own.
With folks who in our same social circles are killing us, then if we can't trust people that we know, then who is it that we can trust?
Only then, she says, can we work towards reversing a trend that is Tori and others apprehensive about something inherent to each and every one of us: connection.
Provide folks with the love, support, and encouragement that we as trans people need, because that provides a modicum of safety.
I'm Dan Grossman reporting.
From the the station working for you. This is WRTV News at 11, streaming now.
There are still some unknowns surrounding the Pacers' future, but one big question has an answer tonight. Today, the team formally introduced head coach Nate Bjorkgren. WRTV's Brad Brown reports Bjorkgren and Pacers leaders share what led up to the hire and what fans can expect moving forward.
The waiting game for the NBA season continues. Still unsure when games will actually begin, but the Pacers' waiting game for their new coach is done.
I love playing here as coaching against the Pacers. I'm going to love being on the side of the home team now.
Nate Bjorkgren comes to Indiana after a successful run as an assistant in Toronto. He was Nick Nurse's right-hand man during their 2019 championship run. The Pacers' job will be Nate's first as an NBA head coach.
From the very first Zoom call that I had with him, it felt good. I just remember shutting off the Zoom call, or even in the interview process when I left Indianapolis during the second interview, I had no regrets.
We talked a little bit about having a coach that is willing to take more risks, who we will praise to take risk, and sometimes it may not work, but I think there's a learning process behind taking risk that's super important in the NBA today.
He does bring a wealth of coaching experience to Indiana, 14 years on the sidelines, 4 of those as a head coach in the NBA's G League, 4 different teams in that frame, which made him very adaptable very quickly.
You have to be able to coach on the fly. You have to be able to make decisions quickly. And you can't worry about things. You can't worry about injuries or a player not playing in that game. The next man will be there and ready to perform.
Bjorkgren says he's ready to bring an aggressive style to the Pacers, calls it disruptive on both ends of the floor, focusing on adaptation and making changes.
You look at our teams, and as a fan and media and as a member of the Indiana Pacers organization, will be a fun team to watch. You're going to see a lot of movement on both sides of the ball.
And after another year of getting swept out of the playoffs, the entire Pacers organization seems ready for a fresh start, a fresh outlook, and a fresh energy.
This team is ready. And as you know, they're great basketball players, but they're even better people.
He brings a good-natured, fun, brings joy back to basketball. And that doesn't mean he can't be tough. And I think the balance that he'll bring is he'll know when to be tough. He'll know when to push the players, but he'll also know when to put his arm around them and say, hey, listen, we got this.
Pritchard said they had about a dozen candidates at the start of the process, moved it down to 6, and then eventually got it down to their final decision. Nate says he's been in contact with his players. In fact, Victor Oladipo was the first to text him and welcome him to Indianapolis. Of course, the NBA calendar is the big thing that remains up in the air. We do not have a schedule yet for the 2021 season, but we do know the NBA draft is up next. That's set for November 18th. Brad Brown, WRTV Sports.
All right, you might want some shorts tomorrow with a high of 80 degrees. Then you'll need the umbrella by Friday afternoon and the jacket again on Saturday. Quite the transition coming our way the next several days. We'll have a high of 55 on Saturday, back into the 60s for the end of the weekend with more rain early next week.
Sounds like a treat to me tomorrow. Thanks for joining us tonight. GMI head your way at 4:30.